Right. Recording in progress.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm getting an echo, so
I think, Tracy, you should turn off your phone.
She's up.
Your phone on mute. There she goes. That's better.
okay. So Tracy, you're muted. Okay.
You're good now with no feedback.
But if I talk, will there be feedback? No. Okay, good.
You're good.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is Monday, January 8th, City Council, 2024. If we could do a roll call, please.
Mayor McGrath,
Here.
Tracy Snyder,
President?
Jen Mazias,
Here.
Tom Nymus,
Here.
Dave Anderson,
Here.
John Hopkins,
Here.
Jared Trumbo,
Here.
all present.
Great, thank you. And I'm actually hearing everyone pretty well tonight, so that's a good sign. Our next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone could please stand. I suppose I should turn on the camera. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next item is approval of minutes from City Council, December 11th of 2023. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes. Second.
Motion by Tom, was that Jared?
Yep.
Second by Jared. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is approval of monthly expenditures.
I'll make a motion to approve the monthly expenditures.
Second.
Motion by Tom, was that second by Mary?
Yep.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Jared Trumbo,
Yes.
John Hopkins,
Yes.
Dave Anderson,
Yes.
Tom Nymus,
Yes.
Jen Mazias,
Yes.
Tracy Snyder,
Yes.
Mayor McGrath,
Yes.
All right, motion carries, thank you. Next item is public comment. Is anyone there tonight who wishes to give public comment? If you could please come forward and sign in there and state your name and address, and make sure that you talk right into that microphone, please. And we have a 3-minute time frame per person. I'm not sure how many people are there tonight, but it looks like quite a few.
Hi, I'm Linda Barnes. I live at 5 West 3rd Street in Washburn. And I'm here to speak on the proposal to open up all city streets to ATVs and snowmobiles. I was informed about this last week, and my first question was, who does this benefit? My next question was, how does this improve the quality of life in Washburn? So I hope while you're discussing later tonight, you address those questions for me. As many of you know, I walk a great deal around Washburn with
Sorry, if whoever just joined the meeting could mute yourself, please. It says with Kelly's tab A. Also, we can't hear Linda anymore.
I quit talking. All right, my concern is safety. My concern is the noise. My concern is the air pollution from more gas vehicles. Safety in terms of other pedestrians, safety in terms of a lot of children. I live on 3rd Street, right over here, a lot of kids coming and going, a lot of pets coming and going. I'm worried about their safety. I'm also worried about the safety of the ATV and the snowmobile operators. because vehicles are not expecting to see them on the streets. These vehicles have been created to be out, all-terrain, snowmobile. The names say it all. They were created to be outside of cities, in the wilderness, in the woods, on trails, not on public roads. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Good evening, Mayor Motif and councilors. I'm Christy Gensch. I live at 410 Fifth Avenue East in Washburn, and I too am here about the snowmobile issue and the regrettable vote last month to deregulate the all-terrain vehicles on the streets of Washburn. I live in a very quiet part of Washburn, as I think most of Washburn is. I have a lot of kids on my street. I have tiny children. I was watching them walk home today in the snow on their bikes. Sometimes those kids come home and they take their dogs out. They're pretty tiny kids and they take these big dogs out for walks. Last summer, beautiful day, kids are out everywhere. They're playing basketball, balls run into the street. At one point, an ATV did come down the street. It's very rare. I think the previous regulations were working pretty well. And it just roared down the street. There was more than one rider on that ATV. It was loud, it was noisy, it just shattered the peace in the neighborhood. I'm concerned also about the pollution issue, as Linda mentioned. I'm concerned about the fact that if we have a really heavily snowed winter, as we did last winter, you cannot see around the corners. And those machines are extremely fast. The snowmobiles are very fast, and stopping at the corners would not be easy to do, especially when it gets slippery like this. I really question how you could have vehicles on the street, gas-powered vehicles, with no regulation at all. I understand that the PD doesn't want to enforce the rules very much. I think it's difficult, and they haven't had to very much. I think it worked well previously. I put the message in a note out on Facebook, and I was interested that I got responses from Ashland and responses from Iron River. In fact, in Ashland, there's a misconception that it is legal there. It is not, apparently. And the message that I had back was, it's a mess over here. And it was the same quote in Iron River, it's a mess, and that there's no enforcement on this. So I would very much, what I'd like to see is that the vote last month be rescinded and the effort returned to maintain the path from a home to the trail again, and not to put snowmobiles on our roads. Failing that, I would hope that there would be some restrictions placed on the use of these vehicles, not near schools, not in heavily areas where there are lots of kids. I don't know how you do that. You have to figure that out. I think it's easier not to let it happen at all. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Christy.
Good evening, folks. My name is Bob Macrath, live at 500 Woodland Drive, and I'm here to express my concerns about the felling of 6 healthy oak trees at Hillside Park last month. Those trees were a familiar and attractive part of the landscape. I was told they were cut at the request of the Tennis Association because they find it a nuisance to rake the leaves and sweep the acorns that drop on the tennis courts. And because of concerns that in the future their roots might cause problems on the court surface. That hardly seems to justify the nuclear option of cutting down every single tree in the vicinity of the tennis courts. Let's keep in mind that there were only 9 trees in that park to begin with, and now 2/3 of them are gone. I'm also concerned about the lack of clarity concerning the relationship between the city and the tennis association and the role that the group plays in park management. I've been told there's no formal agreement or a mutually binding document that defines the relationship between the association and the city and the responsibilities of each party. I was simply told they've been partnering with us for a long time, or apparently we've always done it that way. Let's not forget that Hillside Park is a resource for all Washburn citizens, not just one particular group. But it wasn't just the trees that came down. They pulled out the softball backstop as well. Seems that somebody thinks in that place has only one purpose. If nothing else, I believe it's past time for the city to implement a clear policy that defines the role of this one user group in a park that's supposed to serve multiple purposes. Turning to the long-term plans for the park, we all recall that at the April 2021 meeting, the council authorized the city, and I'm quoting the minutes here, to seek funding to expand the tennis courts. I have been told more than once that the eventual goal was to build a facility that would hold tennis tournaments that would attract tennis players from all over. I recently learned that the grant application was not approved, but I've been led to believe that the city is planning to go ahead with this project. I don't know whether it's true, but if so, it would seem to go beyond the directive of the council at that 2021 meeting, which was simply to seek funds. And I want to make one thing very clear. This is not an NIMBY issue. I approve of the idea of improving the tennis courts and the recreational facilities down there, but it's got to be done right. It's got to be done in a manner that considers all impacts on the community. Getting people out and involved in sports is a good thing, and trends of recreation evolve over time. They're not static. 10 years ago, nobody heard of pickleball, right? Everybody's playing it now. Times change. Cities should follow. That's great. But major changes like those that are proposed now for Hillside Park need to be done responsibly and with consideration for all stakeholders, not just one specific user group. I spent my career in parks and recreation field, and I can tell you that adequate consultation with all stakeholders is essential to the success of a project like this. The prospect of transforming a neighborhood park in an established residential area into a major sports venue of the sort that's described definitely deserves further discussion and transparency before rushing into it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity to comment. And I will not
Thanks, Bob.
lose the pen.
Thank you. So if there's someone on deck there,
Several.
okay.
Hi, this is Douglas Amon, for those that can't see. I can do my dishes and watch city council. That's where I live, 212 West Pine. That being said, I'll start with a joke. What's the opposite of progress? Congress, right? I want to give accolades to you all as city council members. You're able to work together for progress. And that's sadly unique in the US. So I want to acknowledge that for the new year that we're headed into. And I wish you guys the very best luck of continuing to work together and finding mutually beneficial relationships and things that help our community, because that's what Washburn is. And that's what, all of these people probably love about Washburn. I returned from leaving Washburn because my kids missed the sense of community. Feeding into that, the bike park, I think, becomes a central park. It's not a bike park, it's a central park. It is the center, the nucleus of this community, where there is an amphitheater, where there is somewhere to go and release some steam and improve outdoor use. Since I moved here in 2017, Omaha hasn't been anything but a lawn. And that's not progress. Yes, we need revenue, right? How do you get revenue? I know that the city's missing out on easily over the last decade, $250,000 in revenue. Because you don't charge our Airbnbs to be registered. Simple fee, register. If you have Airbnb in city limits, it costs $1,000 to register every year. You don't have to tax it, it doesn't take a bunch of administration. Require registration for Airbnbs. It's gonna help us with housing. Maybe it makes it a little less lucrative to do Airbnb. So people are less likely to do Airbnbs, and maybe it relieves some housing because that supports our community. The marina, man, what great south exposure. I'd love to see solar panels on them. We own that rooftop, if I'm not mistaken. Why isn't there solar there yesterday? I'm talking about pragmatic solutions. Just offered you $250,000 in Airbnb revenue over the next decade. And solar, clean energy, that helped me. I think that's it. Oh, no, lastly, once we create the bike park, or Central Park, as I call it, we can sell the flag park. And as a disabled combat veteran, I take great pride in the flag. But we can do some memorial at the Central Park that acknowledges the sacrifices that people like you, people like me, the sacrifices and things that we've done to serve our communities. Thanks for your ear.
Thanks, Doug.
Hi, I'm Irene Blakely, and I'm here to talk about the issue of snowmobiles on city streets. I'm wondering how much this issue has arisen because of the recent county action to have snowmobiles on county roads. And what I'm afraid of is that city streets are not county roads. For one thing, many streets in Washburn don't even have sidewalks. So people walk in the road, and they walk safely in the road all the time. And many people, families, are out walking in all seasons. I'm concerned about that with snowmobilers and ATVs for that matter. Also because we have ditches, drainage ditches in many parts of our city, it's easy for a snowmobiler to go off the street and into a ditch. The other thing is that one of the charming aspects of this town is the quiet. And snowmobiles break the quiet. They're amazingly loud, and so are ATVs. The other thing is enforcement. I'm wondering how much the police enforce the issue now, because I see violations up and down Third Avenue of snowmobiles and ATVs where they're not supposed to be going, but they're going. And I'm wondering if we have enforcement in place for even what we have now, much less to enforce violations if all streets are involved. So those are my primary concerns about having snowmobilers use all city streets. Thanks.
Thanks, Irene.
Hi there, Ruth Holstrom, 303 East 7th Street in Washburn here, and this is. So we're here just to give our support for the future planning of a bike park, hopefully here in Washburn. I have 2 kids, Laura here who's 4 and a 9-year-old as well. And both of them would be ecstatic to have a space in Washburn that they could take their bikes to and obviously work on some skills and development. My 9-year-old has really gotten into mountain biking this past year. And although we love this is Eli, the trails up at Ashwa Bay, I know that bike parks are really great for skill development, and this would be wonderful not only for skills development for kids, but also for adults. And having worked in a community where they're interested in bicycle tourism as a means for economic development, I've worked at length and understand the benefits to developing bike infrastructure to really encourage economic development. And so I definitely see this opportunity not only as a benefit to the folks who live in this community, but also those who might come and visit, and then also obviously spend money in our community. So I definitely support the idea of future planning for a bike park here in Washburn, and I'm happy to help however we can. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dave Ullman. I'm actually from Ashland, Wisconsin. I drove over for the meeting today. And so I guess I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. But I just wanted to come, I'll be brief. I just wanted to offer my support in public comment for this proposal for the bike park. I also have a 9-year-old son, Otto, in the back, and he loves mountain biking. But one of the great things about the bike parks that we have been to, like the Cable Bike Park is a really great example, is that it really helps with, like Ruth was saying, with skills development and in sort of a controlled way for kids to learn to ride their bikes safely. The other thing that I want to say is that my family loves Washburn. We love coming over here, and it would be just amazing for us to have one more reason for us to come over here and support the local businesses. We love the restaurants, we love the Main Street businesses, and we would come over from Ashland to spend the day here in Washburn if there was a bike park. And so I just wanted to express that from the Ashland bike community, that we are really excited about this proposal as well. So thanks so much. I'll sign my name.
Thanks, Dave. And spread the word to your friends about how awesome Washburn is.
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Harper Hollis Heidenreich, and I'm a local NICA racer whose goal is to get more kids on bikes. And I'm also one of 2 junior grit ambassadors in the state of Wisconsin, whose goal is specifically to get more girls riding. And that's how I work through getting people on bikes.
I'm Maxwell Swan. I am a freshman at Washburn High School, and I'm also on the local NICA team. And I really would love a place to practice my skills and hang out with my friends in town where we don't have to drive. Me and all the other bikers that I know consistently travel to bike parks and destinations really far away, and we really appreciate having one of them in our town where we can get to it on feet or on a bike. Having one of our own would give us opportunities to progress and develop our skills, and it would also allow us to hang out with our friends, which is something we don't get to do enough.
Having a bike park in the community will also encourage us and other kids who already bike or don't to learn new skills and spend more time outdoors. And riding bikes also improves kids' mental health, and just me, I feel so much better when I'm riding, when I'm outside, and when I'm hanging out with my friends.
Yeah, and again, these are just a few reasons, a few of the many reasons why having a bike park in Washburn would be an amazing thing. Thanks, I'm Max Swan, this is Harper House Sedgwick and a few members of our team.
Thanks, you guys. Was it Piper or Parker? Sorry.
Harper.
Parker, okay.
Harper.
Hi, my name is Dustin Long. I live in Washburn, I'm a resident here. And I'm here to speak about the bike park. I'm in support of the bike park. I'm also a teacher at Washburn, so I teach some of these kids. And I see it as a really positive investment in our community. I think it's a unique opportunity for intergenerational place for students to do something healthy and positive. And I think the intergenerational aspect is pretty cool. There's people of all ages that are into this, so it's kind of a unique opportunity for young, middle, and older people to really be together with the common healthy, positive energy. So I think it's great. I think the students of our community and the young people of our community are super hungry for a place to go and do something positive. And so I support it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Charmaine Swan. I'm the president of the Washburn Bike Park Steering Committee. It sounds super official, doesn't it? I live in the town of Washburn, but my kids go to the school district of Washburn. Tony, is it still okay for me to pass these, circulate these? Okay.
Take one and pass.
So maybe everybody in the audience that's a member of our steering committee, could you just raise your hand? We have those kids that spoke, Harper and Axel, for example, they're members of our steering committee as well. So we have really great representation across all levels of our community. So I'm not going to read all this, but I just want you to have this ahead of your discussion, because I think the process and this conversation about a Washburn Bike Park, this has been going on for more than a year now. And we just want you to know that we really appreciate your time. We're really excited that it's here at City Council for discussion. We want to make sure that the councilors understand that IMBA, the International Mountain Biking Association, it's a real preeminent bike trail and park development entity in the US. They were who we got our grant through, and then we had to get matching funds, the $20,000 in the total funding to go through this process. And so what our steering committee really wants to get soon here is a bit of closure to that process, because there's only so much of that scope that we have that's paid for as a part of that $20,000 that was raised. IMBA has narrowed it down to the 2 site options that hopefully you see in your packets, the Holman Lakeview Drive and the Omaha Street property. They also noted that there were other opportunities for additional natural surface trails. I've heard a few people in the community sort of ask me, like, why aren't we doing this over by the baseball field? And that was a site that IMBA looked at, and when they looked at it, they determined that of the 4 sites that they looked at, the 2 best sites were the Holman Lakeview Drive and the Omaha Street property. And so I guess just in closing, the steering committee really is asking the council to approve continued exploration of the bike park tonight. And also just to make it clear that in no way does it obligate the city to pay for anything. We haven't asked the city to pay for anything thus far. And I know there's going to be a lot of conversation about maintenance and all those other things. How do we pay for maintaining it if and when we raise the money to actually build it. But just want you to know that we're hopeful that the conversation can start to move forward and we can get closure to that scope of work with IMBA. Thank you.
Thanks, Shelby.
Hey, my name is Tommy Dogger. I'm actually a town of Washburn resident. I was born here. I've lived here most of my life, except for a short stint away for a few years, but I came back because this place is pretty nice and I figured it'd be a good place to raise a family. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the bike park. I support it. I think it would be a great addition to our community. There's not a lot of opportunities for third spaces for community members to congregate from different generations. That's actually a free space. A lot of things have financial ties to them, so the financial barrier to entry for people to get outside and recreate in our community as community members is great. I'm a professional trail builder. I own a trail building company that builds mountain bike trails all across the country. I've been super fortunate to travel all over the country and see how towns who have invested in mountain biking and skills parks have reaped the benefits of that, whether it's through tourism, whether it's through better community health, and just general community building. I think that's something across the board that would be beneficial. So I would love to see the city council throw their weight behind this, because I think this could be really, really great for a lot of reasons for the town of Washburn. So thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
Carla Bradner, 204 Pump House Road. First of all, thanks to all of you for your work. We know it's a big job and put in a lot of time. I'm here to support the bike park, and I'm also here to ask you to please reconsider the ordinances for ATV and snowmobile traffic on Washburn streets. I do live on Pump House Road, and I think that must be a legal access route because we have quite a bit of ATV traffic and snowmobile traffic on that road. And that's probably okay because there's hardly any residents down there. But I'm very concerned about safety and noise if this moves into all the Washburn streets. And safety is a huge concern, I think. So I'd like to ask you to please reconsider. Thank you.
Thanks, Carla.
My name's Ann Christensen, and I live over on 812 Bradley, the other end of town. And I'm really concerned about ATV and snow machine traffic in Washburn. We've lived here 40 years. And one reason we love living here is because of the peace and quiet. And I think if we had constant year-round noise from snow machines and ATVs, it would really affect the quality of life in Washburn. And I think all of you agree. That's why you live here too. You appreciate the quality of life that we have here, the beauty, your neighbors, the peace and quiet. And I think it's kind of crazy to inflict all that noise on the whole city because a few people don't want to trailer their machines. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I really hope you'll reconsider that and think about the whole community, because I think it would affect us. And if you're trying to attract people to come and live in Washburn, that's not going to happen. So thank you very much. Thank you all for all your work and all the hours that you put into.
Thanks, Sam.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Lexo, and I live at 618 East Bayfield Street. And I also am here to express my opposition of opening up city streets to ATVs and snowmobiles. On the basis of, I think, the increased safety risk it presents and the decrease in quality of life from noise pollution and air pollution. And I don't think we fully understand the impact this might have on roads and road maintenance and potential deterioration of roads. I live in an area where we do get a lot of ATV and snowmobile traffic, and snowmobiles are very difficult to see. And ATVs are difficult to see too, but especially snowmobiles when, when the snow is mounded up, as it is in most winters. And snowmobiles and ATVs and UTVs don't have the safety equipment. They're not designed to be driven on city streets. And they don't have the safety equipment that's required of on-road vehicles. I think this poses a real increase in risk to both the drivers of the vehicles and also to automobile drivers and of course to pedestrians and especially children. There are a lot of good reasons why most cities don't open up their roads to snowmobiles and ATVs and UTVs, and I don't think Washburn should do that. Thank you, and thank you so much for your work here.
Thanks, Liz.
Hello, I'm Mike Weisfeld. I live at 22 East Fifth Street. So it's resident of Washburn. I'm just going to speak in favor of the bike park, particularly the Lakeview Drive part. I think that's a great use of that field of Tansy right now for us to develop that in a way that stays public and in use for people, all the youth that are back there. Messing around with Ariana's desk. Sorry, Ariana, if you're connected to this anyway. But it's just another great way to keep and attract young people to the area and give them something to do. Thanks. Well, I'm going to take them away from your desk, Ariana, if you're listening.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Is that it for public comment?
I think so.
Okay, anyone online wish to give public comment? I'm not seeing anyone unmute themselves, but.
Hi, I'm Kate Miller, and I live at 221 Washington Avenue, and I'd like to give public comment with regard to opposing having ATVs and snowmobiles on our city streets. I believe that it's a strong risk issue, and I don't believe that a decision to have them is really in the best interest of our community, and decisions that we make should be in what is the highest and best good for our town. And I also would like to say that I would support the bike park. So thanks very much for all of your service. I appreciate all of you. Thanks.
Thanks, Kate. Okay, anyone else? I think that concludes public comment, and we can move on. Thanks everyone for your participation. The next item is mayoral announcements, proclamations, and appointments. Don't have appointments or proclamations, and my only announcement is that we have a report from the beautification committee. Karen, if you don't mind stepping forward with that.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. As you remember, I am chairing the Ad Hoc Beautification Committee. And let me first say on a personal note, I am thrilled by the number of residents that are here this evening, because what I have to say, I'm hoping everyone will listen to. And the first thing is that we do have a survey that is now open. It is an easy survey to take. You can find it on the City of Washburn page and you just click on the box and I'm learning that's tell me, Tony, is a CR code? QR code. And because, I'm older, I have to learn that along the way. Anyway, just click on that. The survey takes all of about 2 minutes, but it is an important survey because we're asking all of you here tonight and everyone listening and other residents to weigh in on how your ideas about beautification of Bayfield Street. In addition to the survey, and the survey goes until the 19th of this month, so you have a lot of time, but don't forget to do it because your input and your comments are really going to be important to us. The second thing I'd like to just share with everyone is that we do have a tentative schedule for 2 community meetings in March. One would be on Thursday, the 14th, starting at 6:30, and the second would be Saturday, the 16th of March at 10 a.m. Then that's on Saturday, as I said, an opportunity for residents to gather and hear the results of the survey, give us additional input in terms of ideas and dreams about how we can improve Bayfield Street. A number of the persons that spoke under public comment talked about going away and coming back, loving Washburn for a number of different reasons, and that's what we want Bayfield Street to reflect. The reason you came back, the reason you stayed, the reason you love Washburn. Thank you very much. Questions, counselors? Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Maybe just refresh us on the timeline of what happens once the survey closes.
Well, it will be analyzed, and then on the 2 community meetings on the 14th and the 16th of March, we will be talking about the results of the survey, soliciting additional input, and based on the survey results, the input from those 2 meetings, we will then digest all that information into a report. Our committee is tasked with only making recommendations. We're not making final decisions. The recommendations then will be presented to you, Mayor, and the council in May.
Okay, very good, thanks.
Okay.
Do you guys meet regularly and are those open to the public?
They are, and they're posted. Our next meeting is, someone look at a calendar, I think the 16th of January. Is that a Tuesday? And we meet at the library and we meet at 4 p.m. So the 16th of January, basement of the library at 4 p.m. And they're open, of course. Other questions?
Is that, excuse me, is that where the public, on the 14th and 16th of March, will they be at the library?
We haven't figured out a location yet, and that's still up in the air. We have to work at our meeting in January. We will be discussing the details of those 2 community meetings, but we will be posting that information throughout the community. And posters are up throughout the community talking about the survey. And I believe, Tony, there are some on the table on the counter back there. So if you're interested, take a survey before you leave. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Appreciate all your work on that. Everyone who's on that committee, very helpful. Okay. Our next item then is discussion and action on ordinance 24-001, amendment number 3 to the zoning map changing tax ID 32756 from R2 to R6. Irene Blakely petitioner. That is tab 1 of your packet. So moved. And
Second.
okay, that was a motion by Mary, second by Tom. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion on this?
I have one question.
Uh-huh.
And so in terms of the impact to like neighbors and stuff, because the R2 to the R6 zoning, you know, allows for, like, what I'm reading here is a larger buildable area of 5,000 square feet. So, I guess my question is, I didn't see anything in here about like adjacent landowners being notified or anything like that?
I'm trying to remember if that was part of the process. Scott, do you recall if that had needed to be part of the process? I know that the parcel next to it is zoned that way, and so it's just making both parcels the same zoning, in the same R2 or to R6, so they would both be R6 then. So it's making it a similar to the neighboring, but Scott, was there a requirement to notify any neighbors in part of this process?
There is not a requirement to notify the neighbors. That is not part of the zoning code. There is simply the public hearing.
Okay.
Okay.
And we had the public hearing, and so this is the last stage of the process. And there was no opposition at the public hearing.
Was that public meeting last month? Yeah,
At the plan commission.
at the planning commission meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's just hard to tell by the map. I mean, I drove by there today. Irene, I know where you live. So I drove by there today to kind of just get a feel for it, because, I mean, there's quite a bit of difference between those two zonings, and I know we have to have a break somewhere. So, yeah, I was just trying to get a feel for it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think this had come to council just as a concept first before it even went to plan commission.
Yeah.
So it's kind of been through a number of steps here. Any other questions? Seeing none, I will go ahead and call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, very good. Scott, you'll be in touch with Irene,
Yes.
or not needed once the ordinance is published?
I'll take care of it.
Yep. All right. Next item then is a public hearing. On our next item, if someone would care to make a motion to open the public hearing. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, public hearing is officially open on resolution 24-002, vacating the unopened Triton Avenue between Grandview Boulevard and Sunrise Avenue. Darren and Tara Miller petitioners. Is anyone wishing to speak on that topic? Not seeing anyone, and no one online is unmuting for this. So seeing that there is no public input, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So moving on to the discussion and action on the same item. Does anyone have a motion they would like to make to get us started with discussion?
Motion
Is that
to
Tracy? Yeah, I'll make a motion to open discussion. Actually, I would just want a motion to either approve or not approve to get us started to be able to discuss. I'll make the motion to approve or not approve. I need one or the other, sorry. I'll make a motion to approve. Okay.
Second.
And that was a second by Dave. Okay, now discussion on the motion. Any questions, comments, or discussion? This has been, go ahead, who is that?
This is Jennifer. I brought this up a couple times during this topic. You know, I'm always just asking questions, looking for future, you know, big picture. I understand, you know, the need, the want of homeowners to have additional property and opening things up are vacated alleys. I just question, well, a couple things. I guess, can I ask Darren a question? No, is he here? He's here, right? Or is that not?
Yeah.
Do I have to open the
Darren's
floor?
there.
Okay. Yeah, Darren. I mean, so the whole point of doing this is for you to be able to build a larger garage. Right?
Yes,
And currently you don't meet the setbacks
correct,
where you want to put it.
correct.
But being from a person who lives in the city and my house is the size of a postage stamp, I looked at your property, and is there no other place that you feel like you could put this that would be within your property limits without vacating an alley? Because I just think about like future use, of not having an alley there or something and I understand that we have not done anything with these properties, but there was also like a trail that was supposed to go through here. So can you just talk to me a little bit about like the need of putting it in this location, right?
So for that location or versus other locations?
Yeah, I'm looking at the map of your property. It's not small.
No, but if I was to build on any other location on the property, I would need one of the other city streets to be opened up and carried through from either Bradley. I don't know whose responsibility that would be. I can't imagine it would be mine to open up a city street.
Can you help me with that, Scott? I'm just getting to the need. I'm just trying to.
And the need is having it located up on Grandview Boulevard next to the house, easy access. In my opinion, the roads will never be used. And when the walking trail portion came up, I thought Highland Avenue was a suitable
alternative
for that, for Triton, which would have to be clear cut.
Okay.
As Highland already has a road base, it's already used as a trail. But yeah, to access the bottom end of my property, we need to open up other roads. From Bradley coming through either Sunrise or Triton Avenue would have to be opened up. One full city block.
Okay, thank you.
At least.
And just to add a comment onto that, Jen, this is one instance where the neighbors were notified and signed documents in support of this request.
Yes, yep, I saw that. I mean, I don't mean to be rude, but it's advantageous, right, to neighbors to be able to close this. So I look at the greater good, that's all. I'm just asking questions. And so can you talk to me about can you see what I'm seeing? So this is property. So anywhere else, you can get setbacks. That's all. I'm just looking at acreage possibility. That's all.
Sorry, 1 second. Tracy, you're up next, but in the meanwhile, who was that question directed to, Jen?
I was just asking Scott, because he's looking at the map next to me. Sorry.
Okay. I can't see that, sorry.
That's okay.
Do you want me to answer the question?
Please.
Okay. So I haven't gone through every potential building scenario in this case. I guess I would have a question on, I don't know if it's possible or if it's more of an issue of practicality of whether or not your proposed garage would be on what would be the south side of your house.
The south side, I think there's less room. And also in talking to the neighbors, the first one that I talked to, the Faith, because we have to split the property, we each have to pay. He was more than willing to pay for his half. So that was, and it's also right next to my driveway. I wouldn't have to add a driveway.
And you have an existing garage there that would, or no?
I do, that's connected to the house?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes. So, I mean, in either case, it would require either a second driveway or another go around in order to get another structure in the back. In this zoning district, 2 garages are allowed.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think people know my position, like whenever we sell, remove city property for different things, I just like us to think about unintended consequences. There is, thank you, Darren, appreciate you answering my questions. At some point, somebody thought that this was being planned for a parkway, and I know that can be maybe utilized somewhere else, but then when you go to do it somewhere else, and we get a whole other group of people coming in here saying, well, why were you doing it here? So I'm just ask council all the time to think of unintended consequences, moving things, kicking it down the road, and whenever we vacate, city property. That's all I have. Thank you for listening.
I think the biggest thing about the park, Jen, though, is, I mean, you and I've been around, it was marked, it was platted, but it is so far behind in terms of, I don't think anybody knows that's laid out as a park except anybody that's ever sat at this table. So.
Agreed. I also don't look out 5 years, 10 years. I look out at our community for the next 100 to 200 years. I have a different time frame, and that's how I think. I think of the way future of my children's children in this community. So agreed. Big picture, way out.
And then Tracy, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. One, the zoning committee unanimously voted to move ahead with this project. And I think we need to consider that. And the other piece is for the greater good. Darren talked about the Highland road or area there that's already actually being used as a greater good. I live in that neighborhood, and many people walk along that, that corridor there. So I think there's an alternative if, something wants to be developed, it needs to be developed, or there's desire to be developed in that area. So I'm all in favor of moving forward with this.
Okay, thank you for that. And actually that reminds me, during our discussion at Plan Commission, that was one of the items that was discussed, is that naturally it has developed, the walking path that has developed is on existing roads, Grandview, Oak to Castle Drive, kind of a triangle that is very frequently utilized by lots of folks for walking, and that has kind of taken over as the actual fruition of a walking trail that, maybe was planned in a different place in the past, but in reality it has developed currently in this other area. So that was part of the reason I think why Plan Commission voted unanimously for this, because that existing route is actually a good one and is already being used. So there was less concern about that. But then, of course, the next part of this is the next item, which is, having parks look at updating that plan.
Mary?
Yeah.
A question to Scott about the sale then, if it was to move
Sure.
forward. That means every owner of property along Triton, either to, I'm just saying the right or the left, has to buy the property. It's vacate all or vacate none. Is that the case?
I believe so.
Scott? Well, our practice has been that we only want to vacate blocks at a time, try to do the entire block. We don't like to have dead ends.
Right, right.
In this particular case, there are 2 property owners involved.
Okay.
Both property owners have agreed to purchase their respective halves.
Okay.
So.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion on the motion?
My only other question is, have we done, like, I'm just looking at the map, so is this like the first, I mean, I see maybe a couple little dead ends, but in this area, it appears like we have pretty uniform, you know, I don't know, whatever they're called, are they called vacation? They're called like, not really alleys, I don't know. I mean, it's where we run water and sewer lines, like, it's like where you do different things, right? And so, and there's no water and sewer in this area.
Not correct.
Along where?
There is water.
Water.
In sewer in this area.
Along Grandview.
It actually goes up Bratley, up to the top, and it also goes up Grandview.
Okay.
And then, as was mentioned, you can sort of see it on this larger map. We have a water main that goes across that Highland Avenue right of way, and that's why we keep that clear.
Yep.
And where it's kind of naturally turned into a trail in that section.
Which is this section here, right?
Right there, yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, it doesn't go all the way over to Castle, so the line only goes between Bratley and Grandview, but that is a section that has sort of turned into a trail at that location.
So not intending that, so we likely are not gonna need something like this later for water, sewer, or electrical lines, or anything like that.
Vacating these roadways, the city reserves the right to put utilities into them.
That's interesting.
The proposed resolution before you for this section, however, would remove that right. So that is a decision. If you don't like that provision in the resolution, you can change that in to maintain those utility rights in the future. That gets to be a little more tricky when somebody is looking to build, and we have to make sure that there's still adequate space to maintain that, because you can't obviously build on a utility right of way.
No, and I'm okay with it as long as we feel like, but this is the questions that we should ask, right? Like, we have water and sewer up there, we're not gonna need them for utilities. Those are the kind of things that I'd like to have a discussion about.
The way the neighborhood has developed, and you've heard my comment on this in the past, I can't go back in time and change what was done, but the way these blocks and the way this was platted up there really isn't proper for the type of development that occurred. It should have been replatted into lots that were intended for the vision of that neighborhood. But we can't change that anymore. That's why we have a lot of hodgepodge, and we do have some dead ends and stuff that exist in that area, but I've tried not to perpetuate that problem.
Right, and that's the only question that I have. Yeah, go
These
ahead.
questions we did talk about all of this at Plan Commission, just so you know. We did go through all of those
Yeah, I read the notes.
questions and concerns. And then also, if you look up on that map behind Mary McGrath on the wall, isn't that where it shows like all of the other little things that were vacated in that area because of this type of situation?
Understood.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted to make sure that you were aware that we have talked about those things. You
Yeah,
know,
and
it's
this
not
body
just-
gets to talk about it again. Yep.
Sure. Is there anything else that you had, or?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Tracy, did you have something? No, okay. All right. Unless there's any other questions, I'll go ahead to a vote on this. And I don't think I see anything else. So all in favor of the motion to approve the resolution as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. on to discussion and action on recommendation to refer to Parks Committee request to update plans related to the linear park in the Sunrise Sunset Avenues to Triton Highland Avenues area. Does anyone, this is tab 2 still on your packet? Does anyone have a motion that they would like to make on that? I guess I wasn't sure that this was what was needed. Now that I'm thinking about it, if this is a map from the comprehensive plan, is this something that would get looked at the next update of the comprehensive plan, or the Parks Committee can look at this specific item since it's a linear park separately?
Mary, mine would be to a comprehensive plan.
You would make a motion to refer to the next comprehensive plan update?
Correct.
Is there, so that's a motion?
Yeah, it's just a bigger decision than it'd be like asking the park committee to redesign property over there. And so I think it should be part of the comprehensive plan review.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, so that's a motion by Mary and a second by Tracy to refer this to the next comprehensive plan update. Does anyone have any comments on that, including Scott? Any insight into that process?
I guess I'm fine with that, so long as there is some sort of timer that we're going to start tonight to count down a decade from now, which I'm fine with. I just don't know if to make sure that we're going to remember to do this when most of us will probably not be sitting here, and Scott might be retired by then, and Max will be practicing in DC or wherever his aspirations take him. So I'm okay with that as long as we have some mechanism to recall this 10 years from now.
Can I add, Mayor, this is Tony. So specifically, the linear park area and all of the parks are identified in the outdoor recreation plan, which is part of the comprehensive plan. And I believe that the comp plan or the outdoor recreation plan has a sooner time frame. I don't know what it is specifically, but I think it has a quicker update than the comp plan.
Do you think we need to? Do you think we should change, amend the motion to refer specifically to the outdoor recreation part of the comp plan, or is it sufficient just to say the comp plan and that's part of it?
I'd have to say the comp plan, and I say that only because it plots out buildable lots. If you're going to redesign, it would include utilities. It would be, include roadways, curb, gutter, whatever. So to continue in the park, I think it's a bigger thing.
Sure. Okay, so the motion is to refer to the next comp plan update. Any other comments, questions, or discussion?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hate to have something sitting out there that's gonna be incorrect and can't actually be done according to what we have on the books. So if we could somehow just note it or something, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think the Parks Committee has been looking at any trails, and it doesn't mean that they can't do it sooner if something comes up to look at it, right? So I don't think it's gonna inhibit us, but I don't think it's something that the Parks Committee should take on, in the next.
It's redesigning an entire section of the city.
Yeah, I think we got walking trail update and other things that we're working on, so I agree. I think we can, it'd be nice if we could someplace had a place where we could, like you said, capture things.
Is there a way that we could just add a note to the comp plan that says, note, this block has been vacated and this will need to be updated or something?
Yeah, can't we just put a little errata sheet in there, Tony, so it's something that we can track? You know, I mean, we do that all the time with plans, right? Like, just put a little note page, a little errata sheet in there, that's been vacated, it needs to be updated or something. Okay.
All right, any other comments, questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Very good. Okay, on to our next item, discussion on conceptual ordinance to open city streets to snowmobiles like what is proposed for ATVs, UTVs. And this is tab 3 of your packet. And I guess, you know, we've obviously heard some public comment tonight on this issue to go along with the brief statement in the memo about the chief not having any strong opinions on the topic, thinking that it would cause less confusion and doesn't see any major issues with it. We all heard tonight, you know, what the concerns were from the folks that had concerns, and that ranged from safety to noise. And I guess I just wanted to clarify a few things as we go into this item. So one of the reasons I think that this is being considered is because as it stands, it's very confusing where the routes are, and it's hard to communicate that to the public. And I think people are riding in places where they shouldn't because they aren't sure necessarily where those places are. And it's not an easy thing to communicate. And it's not that there would be no rules at all. There would still be noise and speed laws that would need to be followed. I think one person stated that we were, you know, looking at getting rid of all of the rules or something to that effect. And, you know, and as someone stated, the goal is to allow residents to go from their homes to a gas station legally without having to trailer their sleds. But also, you know, people don't want to ride on the streets. People want to ride on the trails. But by opening the streets, you are allowing them to access the businesses. And that includes gas stations as well as restaurants and the grocery store, which has both gas and groceries. I'm surprised that we haven't heard from any of our businesses tonight. I'm not sure if they were aware that this was on the agenda. But I think that is one of the things that that has been part of the discussion being considered is the access to the businesses from the trails. People don't want to just go riding around on the streets in the city. And, you know, just speaking from my perspective in tourism and having lots and lots of meetings with folks. I am not a motorized vehicle rider myself, but I speak with lots of them all the time, and I can attest to the fact that they don't want to be riding on the city streets for fun. They want to be on the trails, but it is a matter of access. So I just wanted to say those few comments as we head into this item.
Mary?
Yes.
Am I good?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. I haven't had a lot to say on this through the process, but after listening tonight, and then of course I live on a trail place, and when people talked about the speeds, I've been talking to the police department since 1984 about the speeds of snowmobiles and therefore three-wheelers and four-wheelers. And there are children down there in the ballpark area. I've had dogs that have had near-death, death smacks because of the speed of not only the small vehicles, but trucks, which I've gone to the school about. But I would stick with, and I've always felt like if you have a machine that you are responsible to know where you should and should not go. So I would make a motion that things remain, or that you can go from your house to a trail And that would be my motion, ATVs and snowmobiles.
Second.
And we don't have, sorry, we don't have an action item on this tonight. This is just a conceptual discussion.
Okay.
So just to clarify that, but that's why this is good discussion, I think. So thank you for raising that idea. So you're saying for both ATVs and /UTVs and snowmobiles, you would like to see just the access from home to trail system.
If we have to change the color of the trail signs, so be it. The green ones are pretty ineffective. I mean, you blow right past them anyway. So if they were bright red,
I think that's a DNR regulation is the type of signage you can use.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's like very specific to the
Can we
exact
put some
signage.
flags on it? But anyway, never mind. I just want from home to trail and that's that.
So just for
Tracy, I
clarification,
think, hold on, I think Tracy had a comment she wanted to make, and then I'm not sure who was talking.
Well, I agree with Mary wholeheartedly, and given the strong response from the community, I really think that the council needs to listen to what the community wants. And public safety is always number one. I think that's truly important. I have talked to a snowmobiler in my district, and he has no issue with what's currently, an ordinance. He doesn't have a problem with that. I think what Mary said is we need to take a look at the signage. And the other piece is enforcement. That, I believe that we need to enforce the ordinance in a more consistent way so that people will follow the rules. So that's what I have. I just really think that that is the best route to go for Washburn.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. Anyone else?
Well, I'll let Max
Yeah,
clarify,
I was
and
just-
then I have a question.
trying to remember, did the council officially vote to approve ATVs on all city streets?
Yes.
But so last month, the ordinance came back for approval and it was voted to bring it back with consideration that
Of
it's
snowmobiles.
snowmobiles.
Yeah.
Because my understanding is that council approved opening all city roadways to ATVs,
Not unanimously, but yes.
not unanimously. So then, in order to revisit that issue, like was just made, there'd have to be a motion for reconsideration.
Yeah.
To be done that, to do a motion for reconsideration, someone who voted in favor of that would have to move to reconsider that issue,
That was me.
which reopens it.
That would be me.
Okay. So, yes,
But can we make a motion when there's not an action item on the agenda?
yes, a motion for reconsideration is deemed to always be proper if it's done at the council meeting following when that was approved, which I believe was last council meeting. That's where my uncertainty was.
No, I'm gonna,
Yeah.
just to clarify on this, we've been dealing with this for a couple months. So this would be, I believe it was either October or November when an ordinance regarding ATVs was approved. There was, we had to rewrite that ordinance a little bit based on the discussion that had occurred at that council, but that ordinance was never published. And there was a request that the snowmobile issue be brought up. So that's what happened then last month is there was a discussion of, well, should we add snowmobiles to it or not? And my understanding of the result, it was a lengthy discussion, was that the issue of snowmobiles was going to be discussed this month, and whatever the result of this decision, UMax were then going to rewrite all of the ordinances so that they would mesh.
Yes, that's my understanding too. So the decision on opening the roadways to ATV was voted and approved in November. an ordinance hadn't been adopted, but that issue was finalized. So then the motion to reconsider has to be raised at the next meeting, which wasn't raised. So the issue on the ATVs currently is settled. Can't be reopened unless it's put back on the agenda as a new item there. The issue for snowmobiles is still open, correct?
And to clarify, the issue of the ATVs wouldn't be able to be brought up until after April.
Yes.
Because you cannot bring an item back up within 1 year, but that clock starts with a new council after the reorganization meeting.
But you can do it 1 month after?
You can reconsider. Someone who voted in favor of any action at the next meeting can always move to reconsider it.
Are you sure we did that in November, not December?
Yes.
Okay, just check.
Because I was just looking at the minutes to make sure.
I do have that comment. I do know that there's going to be a UTV club formed here in Washburn by the Snowmobile Club. And they, I was told there's probably going to be 8 or 9 UTV clubs come up here while this is happening. So that's going to be tourism here. They're going to be spending money here. So I can't see taking UTVs off when I know that's coming.
So that sounds like the UTV, ATV, council decision cannot be revisited until April. So I think that conversation we probably should not have. So we did open all roads to ATVs.
But that has not been published yet?
Correct.
Correct. So right now we're talking about snowmobiles. And I feel like doing something just for the ease of mapping and for people to understand. And it's the same concept that we talked, that I brought forward with ATVs. I feel again that these are supposed to be on trails. I'm okay with people going from their home to the trail, like Mary said. But the intent, like we read our last ordinance, right? The intent is for them to do that. And Chief Johnson, when he was here, that's what he consults people when he sees them, but he no longer can do that because we've changed, even though we didn't change the intent theoretically, there is no backing. People can go anywhere they want on ATVs, and I don't feel like we should do the same for snowmobile, and I didn't think we should do it for ATVs. So, do we have a second for Mary's motion? Like, what are we voting on here so that we can move forward?
Well,
I guess
so I don't,
I'm to take back the motion.
I don't know if we have to amend. So Max,
yes,
you said that we could reconsider.
No, that was when I had initially thought that we voted on the ATV at the last meeting.
Right. But then for the snowmobile part.
So if the council votes that they don't want to open streets to all streets to snowmobiles and want to keep it with just residential access, then there's no action to be taken on that.
Okay.
And I'll just finalize the ordinance as was approved under the ideas and concepts approved in November.
So at this time, do we need to take a consensus as to whether or not we want to?
Yes, that's my opinion, because I was not drafting a finalized ordinance if it was just going to be amended again at the next month.
Sure.
Can we ask a couple clarifying questions? Jared has one and I have one.
Yep, Jared, go ahead.
I don't really have a question. I was just going to kind of say where I stand. I think I said at the end of the last meeting, I don't really support personally the snowmobiles on all streets as well. I feel like they're a different beast than the ATVs. They are lower. There's the snowbanks that impede visibility. They don't drive the same. And the town I grew up in had them on all the streets, and there's kids ripping around all the time on them. I don't see that here now. The UTV, ATV, I was more in favor of because I just see older gentlemen and ladies mostly riding around, obeying the 10-mile-an-hour speed limit. And I haven't seen that change too much, but I do think snowmobiles are a different beast, and they're harder to control, harder to see. You're lower down on the ground. Not really meant for roads. More rough on the roads, on maintenance. So, just want to say where I.
Okay, so we can either. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That's it.
My clarifying question was, with snowmobiles, you can drive your snowmobile to an existing route and get on that route, correct?
Yes.
And the issue was with ATVs, that was not an option
Correct.
because of a state statute.
There was not a state statute allowing that to be made. Is that a correct way to word
Yes.
that?
The state statute specifically says a municipality can establish this residential access program for snowmobiles. It doesn't say that you can do that for ATVs. So it does allow opening all roadways. That was that discussion, but it doesn't say you cannot have the residential access. It's just that the city in the past had designated the residential access for snowmobiles, but had not opened up any additional routes for ATVs to allow that type of access.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure we have a lot of people in the audience tonight to understand, like, why the council did move forward with opening all roads to ATVs. Because I did not obviously vote for that, but I felt like one of the reasons the council moved that way was because we did not have the choice to be able to allow a homeowner to access it through a route without trailing to that route.
It was not available under the ordinances, and after discussion, the reality of tracking a residential access route for each homeowner in the city to find the shortest route to an approved ATV route is that that's not going to happen.
But that's what we're doing with snowmobiles.
But ask anyone from law enforcement, Kenny said, there's no way to track and make sure that people are going on that shortest route.
Correct, but that's what we're doing for snowmobiles.
Yes.
So, okay, I'm done. I'm done. Let's go, move on.
Well, we can't quite move on. I need to get a consensus of where people are with this. So can we do a straw poll, raise of hands of who, let's just say who wants to keep snowmobile as is with the current residential access to trails on the nearest route? Who wants to keep it as is? So far I have Jared, Tracy, Jen, and Mary.
I'll change my mind.
I changed my mind.
Okay, so pretty much everybody wants to keep it the way that it is with snowmobiles.
Jeez.
Good job.
Okay.
Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. Okay, so Max, that means we can move forward with the ATV as it was voted on and published.
Yes,
That
that'll come back,
ordinance.
yeah.
And then if we do want to bring up ATVs again, that would be in April.
Correct.
Okay, Tracy, did you have a question?
I just have a question, just for clarity's sake. So we have to wait till April to reconsider
ATVs.
Correct.
ATVs.
Because we did vote on that, and we can't reconsider the same thing within the same year unless it's the new council.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, I understand now.
And did we ever
Thank you.
finalize the language last?
That's what I'll do in middle.
Okay. Moving on. Next item is discussion and action on consideration of future planning for bike park. And I just want to, this is tab 4 of your packet. And I want to say a couple of quick things. One is really great to see all of the input on this item. It is an exciting concept, and I just want to remind everyone that this is a new concept. This is not something really that's in a current plan, and we do have a lot on our plate right now, but because it is something that I think so many people would find valuable for the city, I guess I want to make sure that, no, I can't say that. I want to have everyone think about whoever is going to make a motion on this, please consider our current goals and objectives and our current, I was gonna say caseload, our current, you know, big projects that are on our plate right now in considering what motion you want to make on this. I understand that it might be something that everyone wants to see, but I want to make sure that if, I guess the consideration for future planning, it would be referred to parks to do future or additional research on and planning for. And that's something where I look to Jen, you and Tony for, you know, whatever the workload is that the Parks Committee has currently. That's something where you would have to look at those priorities and projects that exist. So just, I know it's exciting, but I just want to make sure that everybody is thinking realistically about what the process would be moving forward if everyone does support this concept. So with that, I would look for a motion, and then we can discuss. Tracy?
I'll make a motion that the council support the concept for the development of the bike park in the city of Washburn.
Second.
Was that Mary?
No.
No, who was that?
Me.
That's Mary.
Jen?
No, it's Mary.
Oh, it was, you guys, I can't tell who's saying what there. So that was Mary?
Yes.
Okay, so motion by Tracy to support the concept, second by Mary. Is there any specific direction on that, or, you know, just that the Parks Committee would look into that further, or is that assumed?
You know, I wouldn't have made the motion if it was that the entire process rests on the back of city staff and council. So with the groups that have organized and come before us and spoken to the point of development, that's a partnership. And again, the city has a huge workload ahead. If they're willing to carry the weight of this project with the encouragement of the city, that's why I made the motion I did.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question. So.
Go ahead.
We have a motion on the table, correct?
Yes.
We're good with that?
Yes.
Okay, so from a Parks Committee standpoint, we just wanted to bring it to the council for support. But I'm gonna say that I think it's really easy for everyone at this table to say we support it, because it's great, right? It's a great concept. I think it's great for our community. My main thing is I've learned my lesson from the dog park situation. When we put something back to Parks Committee and we're not solid on the location, we're just gonna go round and round and we're gonna waste people's time, right? And so I've been working with this group and I feel like right now, and maybe we have to put this as another topic next month. I don't know if we can talk about it. I don't know what we have to do here, so I need some guidance. But I don't want to waste, you know, this group's time, the steering committee, or the parks time, committee time, if we don't agree with the two locations. Because right now, they've done everything they can do with the two locations being the best location. So for them to like move forward, and we can bring up Charmaine too, if we want to have a conversation with Kelly about this. You know, I just want to learn from what we've done in the past. Like, I felt like I didn't do justice with the dog park because kind of they had the same thing. They had a location issue. So it kept coming back. And Parks Committee can't help with that, right? And so this body needs to be able to say, yes, this location we're okay with. We're okay with either one of them, investigate both of them. But if we're not okay with one of those two locations, then we should not move forward. Or we should say you have to find a different location. Yeah, whatever it is. I don't have the answer, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think it helps the organization, the steering committee, to say we support it, because the next steps require them to actually have a site to be able to do future designing, going for grants. And am I speaking wrong? We can bring Charmaine up, so, you know, or Kelly. I mean, I just think that's where we're at, which is a really tough decision, not to be taken lightly, because both of these locations, you know, the waterfront is controversial. People like the tranquility there. They don't, you know, we know that when we go through development there, definitely that we have to bring more community in. The Holman Drive piece across from Stage North, you know, that's taking that area off the tax base. It's one of our last places for development for whatever it is, the mixed use to bring the community or tourists down to the waterfront, which this does. So I do feel like we need to take it one step further than just support. And I don't know if we can do it with the agenda topic here, if we have to bring it back. But that's my input from the Parks Committee. If that makes sense.
To answer that question, my opinion is that the agenda is sufficient enough to allow you to choose either one or both, or specifically identify that area.
Okay, thank you. And that's just my recommendation from the Parks, like, from what I see with leading the Parks Committee, that's just what I ask the council.
I think that's really good guidance, and I think it's wise to learn from that process, definitely. Max, would it be possible to proceed with the motion as it is without a location and then have a separate motion on the location? Or
I think that's fine, or you can just combine it as one.
Tracy, do you
Yeah,
have a preference?
I'm fine with, actually just having one and supporting a bike park in the city on either of the two locations that were recommended. You want me to name them though?
I think
the Omaha Street and what was the other one? How did it go?
I think what Jen is getting at is looking for specific guidance on one of those two. Is that correct, Jen?
I mean, if the council is okay with either location, I mean, that's something the Parks Committee can do, is work with the steering committee and do some investigation to which one is the best option. I guess that would be fine. I just don't want to move forward with the council not having an appetite for either. And Tom has his hand up.
The only thing.
Tom, go ahead.
We might not have and Kelly, feel free to jump in, but we might not have in the remaining scope of the INVA grant, I don't think it would give us two final options for two sites. Does that make sense?
We have to narrow it down to one.
Somebody has to, right? The Parks Committee or the City Council, to be able to finish their scope of work, which is a design concept that can be taken to look for grants and funding, kind of that next phase. So that is the rest of the scope, right? Is once there's a site selected that makes more sense out of these two that have kind of been narrowed down, then INVA carries on with kind of some of that rest of that stuff that becomes a package that can be taken out to find the funding for, should the city be interested in moving forward beyond that.
Tom, did you still have a question?
Yes, I have a comment.
Go ahead.
The conceptual idea of a bike park is a fantastic idea, but at present, it's the wrong time and the wrong place for what we have coming down the pike. And everybody in the council knows what's happening in April, and I wish this could have waited till after that.
Well, let's hear from Charmaine and Kelly a little bit with that response to that comment in terms of the time frame, because this is something that is a very long-term project. So I guess in response to that, you know, you guys, what are you thinking? You're not thinking the next couple of years. I mean, it's going to take, it's a big investment over time for this group to be able to secure that money.
Right,
So,
I understand that, but where the one spot where they want to go, it would fit in referendum, I believe.
The proposal, as I see, is not charging any fees. It's an open park space, so that would not be a commercial use.
Right.
It would not require a referendum.
Right, I
Even if
understand that.
That's
The way that the
That's
referendum
what I
is
was
currently
saying.
written, yeah.
The way the referendum is written, this would pass through the referendum, but it still is the wrong time because that referendum is right around the corner.
One thing that I wanted to point out is on the Holman Drive design, it looks to me like the parking is on the other side of the road from the park. And I guess I would just have some safety concerns there about,
I don't think so.
people going back and forth.
In that second one that when they kind of narrowed it down, I believe they put the parking, they thought that the best use was the parking assembly that is there currently with some additions that would still maintain the right of way down to the wellhead and expand that a little bit for some of those amenities that were discussed, like the bathrooms, since there's sewer and water kind of right there, like literally right there.
Okay. So the focus area 1.
In terms of timing, just to speak to that a little bit, so this group, started to talk with the city a while ago. It took about a year to find, once the INBA grant became reality, it took another almost year to get the funding to match that INBA grant. And now INBA has this scope of work that the city has agreed to for sort of this planning process. So while I think there's opportunity to stretch the time of engagement, we don't have like an infinitely open time frame with INBA and the work that we essentially have raised money and paid them for on behalf of the City Parks Committee. By our understanding, when we've looked at how this relates to what might come, this seems like it still fits within the scope of what was in the plan for the city in terms of that corridor, regardless of where the referendum. So I'm not quite sure how that timing might affect this actual project.
John,
Again, I don't think
question, and I
that
have
the reality
another
of
one.
building anything is anytime soon, right? The idea is that INBA would deliver at the end of their scope, which would give the steering committee an opportunity to go and find, find the funding and find that kind of necessary part, which would likely take some time.
And what's the end?
Well, and I think there's a piece of more public input that would be needed. I think there was public input, just on the design concepts. But as far as the location, like Jen was saying about the learning from the dog park, we definitely do need some more public input probably in that process of deciding which of these locations would be better. So I'm not sure, as it stands now, the motion is for either of the two. Somewhere, somebody needs to decide which one. And that has to be done, I think, before you're saying INBA will proceed with the rest of the planning.
And from a steering committee perspective, what they've offered is different opportunities at both sites. The anticipated plan was not to expect that the city council tonight would say, well, we like this one, let's go for it. Was, simply to say, these sites have different options. We think that a bike park would be great at either. This is what, kind of the professionals have narrowed it down to. And so working through that process, that site selection process with the Parks Committee is certainly very open. That I think is what the group anticipated. It's just a willingness to kind of further identify what those opportunities are at each site and what fits in with the city and the rest of the stakeholders.
Kelly, can you give me a timeline on what would be acceptable? Like, is July too far out or what?
For what?
Are you talking about for deciding on a site, Tom, or are you talking about for this motion that's on the table?
Deciding on a site, because there's issues with both from what I've been being told.
I agree with that, Tom. There's issues on both of the sites, and a lot of opposition on both of them. It is not an easy shoe-in that either one of them is going to work.
Mary, to that point overall, and using the dog park as an example, you all came up with some really decent things. We're gonna have a fight no matter freaking where the hell it goes. So I think we should decide one or the other and live with our decision. We're not doing it randomly, but if we start bringing the public in, they're gonna go, oh, over here at the east side, and over here up at Hillside. And they'll start up with another freaking half a dozen places to put it. The professionals have narrowed it down to 2 absolutely wonderful spots. We will have a fight on our hands no matter what the hell we do. So I would choose to go with Lakeview Holman Drive. That would be my pick.
Well, I'd have to be in opposition to that because that's, lots of habitat in there, lots of birds and things and going there and just totally clearing that out.
So to
And
that
put
point,
trails.
you want absolutely freaking nothing happen along that property from the lake from West End Park to Washington Avenue.
Yes, Mary, you're right.
There's the
Okay.
answer.
Okay, we're not gonna get into the,
Nope, just wanted
Actual-
your answer on that one.
okay. So we still have the motion for both on the table. Is someone going to amend the motion, or do we want to vote on that motion?
If you can live with the two, or you would like one tonight, or we discuss it again next month and come up with one or the other.
I think from our perspective, the way forward is not clear.
Okay.
It seems like at some point, if the city is excited to partner on this, then a site has to be picked.
Okay.
So,
And the steering committee is really open to whatever process that
Sure.
is, but I think not having a process
Correct.
is, I think, making it a little bit difficult for a community group to engage with the
You're
city in
right.
a really productive way.
So,
Okay.
I think
Jen-
whatever that process looks like, we're open to it, but we are looking for the city to point us in the direction of that process.
So I would amend the motion to include the Lakeview Holman site.
So that's, you were the second though, so Tracy,
Oh,
are
sorry.
you amenable to that amendment or not?
Actually, I'm not.
Okay,
I actually like the Omaha site.
I want one or the other.
So, I think it's premature to choose one tonight, and I think it would be better if we just left two in. That's what I heard the women say, that it was okay to leave an option of the two best sites that the, INBA had recommended. So I think that would give them enough, momentum forward.
At least initially, since that's the motion
Yeah.
that's on the table, like to go ahead, are you fine with just leaving the motion as is, Mary? For
Yes.
now, and then we
Yes.
can always make another motion for a site or not.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and vote on the motion that we support the concept for consideration of future planning for a bike park on one of those two best sites that were determined. All in favor?
this third side?
Everything. Mary.
Okay, so the motion is just for the two, and so I'm gonna take a vote on the two for right now.
Mary,
So you can either vote for that or not, or if there's further discussion, go ahead.
I just want to chime in here. I think the two sites are fine. I also would prefer the Omaha property. But what I think we could do to help the process along is maybe not bounce this back and forth from the Parks Committee to the council, Parks Committee to the council. If we just make a decision tonight that the council is going to handle this, and for timeline purposes, when decisions need to be made, we can make them without having to ask the Parks Committee to do it and then bring it back to us. There may be some sensitive time frames that need to be met that won't be able to be met if we keep the process in two bodies of government here. So if we can, I would be in favor of just the council handling this and making the decision that both those sites are fine and we can work along those guidelines.
Okay. Anything else on the motion that is currently on the table that is just supporting the two sites for now?
If we vote on this, do we get to have a conversation after on this topic? Are we done?
There can be
Well,
another.
if someone wants to make another motion to either decide on a process or pick a site, that can be a separate motion also on this topic.
Okay, thank you.
So all in favor of the motion to supporting the concept and for future consideration of planning a bike park for those two sites? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Opposed? That was,
Abstain.
so there's two noes,
One abstain, one no.
one abstain and one no. So motion passes?
Yep.
else have another motion regarding a timeline, a process, or a specific site that they would like to make?
I would make a motion that the city council maintain control at this point over the decisions and discussions with the steering committee.
With the site selection?
With the 2 site selections.
So at a future time though?
Well, sure. Are you talking about selecting a site at a future time?
Yeah, you're not making your motion to select a site tonight. You're just saying that you would like council to make the decision on the site after more discussion has been had with.
I think all future discussions with the steering committee should happen at the council level to avoid bouncing back between council and the parks committee.
Are you making a motion or you want a discussion on that?
Well, I'm making the motion and then we can discuss it. You mad at me?
I'm not mad at you, I just don't understand it.
Okay.
I don't get mad, I just don't, clarification.
So I guess I'll clarify my motion. City council should take all further action in regards to bike park.
Basically saying no parks.
At either one of those 2 locations. Is that clear?
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, so for discussion purposes.
So sorry, go ahead.
No, for discussion purposes, I mean, that's what happens anyways. The Parks Committee just recommends. And I do think the Parks Committee can play a role because they can help out and help things and take off some of the work from Tony, and sometimes we have subgroups or whatever. I mean, the Parks Committee doesn't want to be part of the site selection anyways. So once council makes a site selection, which is what they're gonna need to move forward with the rest of their grant monies, I think the Parks Committee can have a role to assist, just like little details and helping them with public meetings or whatever it is. I mean, I don't think you need to take the Parks Committee out. I'm just saying the Parks Committee, we should not move forward until we have a site. That's the bottom line. Because if we send it back, or even if you're telling them to come back and work with the council, eventually you're still gonna have to pick one of the 2 sites or a site. It doesn't do them any good until they have a site, because that's the design part of it with the different components and that kind of stuff is the next phase, correct? I mean, you really can't do anything more until there is a site selection. And so the main thing is just figuring that out. So I think Dave Council would do that anyways.
You guys want a site selected tonight?
It's not really about what we want. I think
Right.
the site selection is the next thing that we will need to carry on. I think the things that the committee could do, as well as INVA, our professional consultants, is reiterate what those 2 sites were and why, what the opportunities might be at each site in terms of community amenities, or what those park sort of features might look like, if that helps the council make a decision between those 2 sites. So there's might be things that the steering committee could provide at a future meeting, so that you would, so that everyone would be kind of on the same page in terms of what each of those sites offer. But again, the steering committee is able to share that from the position of what bike park amenities and what other amenities might fit in with the bike park. And so we would be happy to provide that so that a decision could be made. But again, to finish out this kind of process with INVA, a site has to be picked. So in terms of time frame, you had asked that, I believe, Tony, remind me, I think we had a year to work with them. And I believe we started in July. And so, once a site is selected, then we anticipate a little bit of iteration while they're kind of tweak things and then bring them up to kind of this sort of drawing space, to kind of finish off. So I think that in the next couple of months would be important to be able to finish out this layer of conceptual work with INBA on the required time that they have set, which is about a year's work with them from the start of their contract.
Tracy, go ahead.
My comment is that it's, in the, the agenda, we weren't going to pick a site tonight, and I mean, I would like to pick a site tonight, but I don't think everyone is prepared enough to decide on a site, and why can't we put it on the agenda for next month, and we'll definitely make a decision on one of those two sites. But then, given that people then review those two sites more intensely and have a more informed decision-making process.
And I'm sure with that in mind, they've been really gracious about meeting both the city and and the steering committee needs. So if there's a need for a little bit of kind of bullet points or clarity at what those two sites offer different from each other, right? What opportunities might exist at one site, one certainly has different topography, which lends itself to something different. So again, your decision may be about the amenities that are there, or it may just be about how those sites fit within the greater community. But I think that between INBA and the steering committee, we can at least provide some additional information to make your job of deciding easier.
I like that. Ladies, are you at all familiar with what the issues are on the two sites versus the opportunities? I like the idea of a bike park. Don't get me wrong, it's a great idea. It's the issues that are involved with both the sites that you have picked. I'm not sure that you even know that there are issues. And there are some, and they're pretty significant.
With all due respect, one of the things that we chatted with both INBA and the Parks Committee was, and the city staff was, look at all the property in the city. Is there anything that lends itself to the structure and function of a bike park, and why? And that's sort of what INBA has come back with. So in terms of their actual use as a bike park, they have narrowed it down. Again, the city may have other considerations. I think everyone's well aware, but again, that's not what we've asked INBA to help us do, right? We've asked INBA to identify sites that are most functional for this type of land use and bring that back to the city and the parks and say, is this in accordance with, the city's vision of the community?
Jared?
I feel like we've done the action on this. We've given them what they wanted tonight. We've voted all in favor. We need support of that. So I think we should keep moving forward with this.
So we do have another motion on the table, although I'm not sure I completely understand it still, that we'll need to vote on unless that motion is withdrawn.
I have a comment, question.
Go ahead.
I've had talked with somebody who's on that bike park commission, and a lengthy talk with him, and he reiterated to me more than once that he would be more than willing to take the home and Lakeview Drive off the table now.
I just have one
question.
For the two speakers here. Are we under?
Sorry, Dave, can you just speak up a little?
Yeah, are we under any timeline? Is there back up against the wall in the near future for a decision that this council would have to make or the Parks Committee would have to make in the near future? In other words, July was thrown around, but is there something that needs to be decided that you need from us to move forward?
Effectively, I don't know that the steering committee would have the INBA's process, right? The site selection is sort of what the next phases of their contract hinge upon. So,
and we need that before they can complete the current contract, which ends in July.
Which ends in July. Thank you, Mary. So, no. So, in terms of, I think, working with the community group, open-ended deadline or no deadline or open-ended process makes it difficult to engage, right? So if there's something that the city is waiting for or wants to see, I think that would make a lot of sense from the steering committee perspective, right? Is how would you like to proceed? What would you like to see from us what can we help to expedite or to make this decision? Or is there a timeline that you're thinking of? I think the idea is that the steering committee is not necessarily driving the city process, but is engaged in a process with the city that does have a shelf life.
I mean, if we give you a decision by May or June, would that be enough time?
No. I think we're thinking more like a month, right?
A month. We talked about March or April when Charmaine and I talked a little bit about, I just again was concerned about this coming back to the Parks Committee without a,
Location.
yeah, without a location, just saying, oh yeah, we support it. And so, you know, I feel like a couple different options that we would have. Dave, I would ask you to withdraw your motion because I do think the Parks Committee can play a role at different times, but the Parks Committee gets their orders from council and from an agenda. So we're just not gonna go work on it unless you give us a mission with it. Like, hey, your mission is to, you know, look at these 2 sites and come back to us in the March council meeting with your Parks Committee's recommendation of which 2 you recommend and why. I mean, that's homework that we can do, but we don't have to. I'm just saying, like, I would, or it could just come back to this body next month, like Tracy said, and give ourselves some time to think about it. I do have one question. Is there another option on the table for, somebody told me that Ashland is looking at building a park, a bike park, a similar bike park. Is that something that's on the table?
Obviously, I do speak for the city of Ashland, but Sarah Hudson, the parks director, and I went to the same, we both went to the same conference that made it accessible to get these INBA grants. Their initial process with INBA was looking at a really specific bike park, but what they sort of arrived at and are working towards now is an expanded sort of trail system that has some skills areas that are all around the city. So not a destination bike park per se, in the same way that that INBA's been sort of designing with this group.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I just had that question to me a couple of times. It's like, why?
But they are looking at infrastructure for bikes that's broader.
But they did get a similar grant.
They got the same exact grant. Yeah.
Okay, that's good for us to know. Okay, thank you.
And they've been working with the same designer, same team.
Okay.
And again, my only major concern is we get past that referendum. Because if it passes, everybody knows what's gonna happen.
But I don't
know, because this is not a commercial
No,
development.
not for
And
this.
so,
It's for what we wanna do.
Well, I think it's all part of the progress of Washburn. We won't get into that, but I will withdraw my motion. I just didn't want to get this muddied up and into 2 different places and decisions needing to be made and missing timelines and grant opportunities.
thank you. I think that's a good thought, and I think if, it sounds like there's a consensus that if Parks and the steering committee can take a little bit of time comparing these 2 sites and come up with a recommendation and explain the thought process there. And Jen is fully aware of, you know, the details with the complexities of each of these properties, I think. You know, and we had one, Doug at public comment this evening with his idea of, you know, you see the complexity there where, you know, we would move the Veterans Memorial to the Omaha property and then potentially sell the Legion Park property, which we're not sure we can do yet. But
I'm not
you
sure
know,
why we keep even bringing that up. That isn't even on an agenda, and we just, I think that bringing up one piece of public comment, Mary, is inappropriate. I think that, I'm just not even sure why.
I'm just pointing to that as an example of how complex it might get. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
And so it would be helpful, I think. And is there a consensus that we send this back to Parks to work with the steering committee to look at the 2 sites and make a recommendation explaining that to us further so that council can make a decision one way or another so that the process can complete.
So then it would be on the March city council meeting to make a decision where the Parks Committee would talk about it at their February meeting and come up with criteria, recommend public stuff most of you already know, like here's your trade-offs. But that's something the Parks Committee can do, or it can just come back in February to this body. Those, to me, are the choices.
I would prefer coming back in February. We have all the material we need in front of us. So to have
I
you guys.
agree.
Yeah, not to have you guys rehash it. You've been through the process as it is.
Yeah, if you don't want the Parks Committee to do any legwork, if you already think you know the trade-offs, if you think you.
And I think that's where Dave was trying to go, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So
that's fine.
I would like to see the vote on which site in February.
In February?
So just put on the agenda, the February agenda,
Yeah,
a
and
vote
then-
on
Yeah. and
which
then-
site would be considered.
And we have all the material we have to keep in our booklets right now.
Okay.
So to be real clear, the one site that is preferable is the Omaha Street property, is that correct?
No, different people have different opinions at this time, and so,
We think they both function as the right part. They both, in those given some clear sets of amenities that would be optional at each site. So there's opportunities at each site.
There's not one or the other that is more preferable.
I think that the steering committee has really arrived at, it would be a great amenity that we see a lot of support for in town. It isn't really the steering committee's job to pick the site. We'd be happy to work with the city.
Either way.
Either site.
Both viable options.
Both are viable options.
And my point earlier was we will have a fight on our hands no matter which property we pick.
Yeah.
sure.
But they both do have different opportunities with topography and how big it can be in different pieces of what a bike park would look like.
And we'd be happy
If we're
to debate that, if that decision is being made at the council level, then just for clarification, then would we move back with the once that site selection would happen, we'd move back with the Parks Committee to sort of further develop the concept?
It sounds like not. I think, we have the information in front of us. I would ask that everybody does really take the time to study this, ask questions if you have them, and come back prepared with a decision that you'd like to vote on at the next meeting so that we can move on and let the work continue then.
Yes.
We continue to keep not only our steering committee meeting, but we have a list of about over 100 people that we've been communicating with that initially, a year and a half ago, expressed support in some kind of amenity like this in Washburn. And we've shared, Tony and Scott, thanks for that YouTube link, so that we could, not everybody can come and sit in a space like this for hours on end, right? And so we were able to share the IMBA presentation with those folks after the fact. So that was really helpful, and I would encourage you all, you can fast forward through any of the parts you want to, but they do a really good job of talking about the different pros and cons of each site and kind of what the sites lend themselves to. So I'd encourage you to just watch that YouTube video if you wanted some extra information.
Tony, if you could send that out to council, that would be great.
I have it and I can do that again.
If you could do it again, thank you. All right. Is that a clear enough? Is everyone fine with that consensus statement that we'll come back to this next month to vote on which of the two sites we prefer?
Yes, I think the only question would be, Kelly did ask, like, after that site selection would be with the process, would it be going back to the Parks Committee? And I think the answer is, Kelly, it just depends on what the,
The steering committee is happy to go one step at a time.
Yeah.
I know this is a big decision. We really appreciate all the time that everyone's taken to consider how this amenity might fit into the city. So
yeah, there may be things that the Parks Committee is like, given from the council to work with you on. So likely, probably different components, yeah.
That's great.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next item then, which is discussion and action on recommendation to discontinue cable television service in campgrounds. That's tab 5 of your packet. I'm not sure we'll need much discussion on this.
Motion to disconnect cable at the park.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Mary, second by Tom, to discontinue the cable television service in the campgrounds. Any questions, comments, or discussion?
Parks Committee had a conversation on this, it was pretty, I mean, in terms of a money option and benefit, we all unanimously said it would be a good idea. Although obviously some folks at West End Park may not be happy with the decision.
I think a lot of people have their own streaming service now,
Yeah.
so.
Yep.
Yeah, as long as, I think they might need a little help with some options if they're not current users of Wi-Fi streaming services. So however we can be helpful in providing that information to them, that would be good, I think. Tracy, did you have a comment?
Yeah, the part that I thought was really, I mean, I agree, I think it needs to be discontinued. But the issue of, I saw in this is that exploring the need to upgrade the speed and quality of the Wi-Fi. How bad is it now? And how soon should we address that issue is my question. I mean, should we like put it on the agenda for next month or someone deal, whatever, but that's kind of what I was.
So I think that kind of ties into the comment that I made at the beginning of the last item, where I think this is something that Parks maybe could help with the prioritization of projects that are out there hovering in this arena. The priorities that were voted on with the budget were specifically for the borrowing. And so there's still a number of projects that are unfunded that are out there that need to be planned for at some point. And that would be something I'm hoping that Parks can help us with, is coming up with a prioritization and timeline and plan for how to tackle some of these things, like the Wi-Fi would be one of them, adding to all the other things that were on that list.
But Mary.
That aren't necessarily being funded yet.
So with the savings though of getting off of cable, couldn't we just turn around and reinvest that money in upgrading Wi-Fi?
I don't know, who's that a question for? Scott?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, to Scott.
So the answer to that question is yes, and I've already been experimenting with, because I did increase the speed at one park last year already. I'm just kind of monitoring the differences and so forth, because I'm the only one who has access to be able to see usage and so forth. So I prefer that this issue not go to a committee. Just let me deal with it.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so we have a motion to discontinue the cable television services. Are there any other questions or comments?
No.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, our next item is discussion and action on ambulance department switching to an emergency medical responder service. And just to clarify that, I think it's switching to include an emergency medical responder service. So we would still have EMTs, but we would also have EMRs. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that's tab 6 of your packet. You see some of the differences outlined between the two. There's a question of the pay scale that would need to be worked out, but that's not anything we need to vote on tonight. I think that was just informational at this time. But is there a motion anyone would care to make on this to get us started with discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mary, second by Tom to switch to include an emergency medical responder service. Any questions, comments?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Tom.
Now, is this gonna still where we have to end up with 8 EMTs or no?
That is to be determined, I think, and that is not.
I'm just curious about that because I think that's what the number was said for 24/7, 365. We had to have 8.
Correct, and And I don't know that that's something that we're ever going to attain, honestly. I mean, I think that was just thrown out there as that's what it would take if we were to be at that level of service. I don't know that we'll ever be at that level of service. So this is just a way to patch together a solution in the short term, at least, for what is reality, because we don't have the number of EMTs. And this is a way to get some folks maybe on board that would fill some of those gaps without having to take the level of training that an EMT would have to take. So I don't think there is an answer to that question at this time, but that's not.
No, the reason why I was asking is because hiring the EMTs is coming off of the shared revenue. And what's gonna happen with the shared revenue in the future? Are we gonna be putting it more into public works, or?
I don't know that any of those questions can be answered tonight, Tom. I think tonight we're just looking at whether we want the the ambulance service to include EMRs. That's all we're looking at.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Just those were my questions.
And I think we're gonna have, we'll have time to pose those types of questions. It sounds like, well, as long as, before Jeff retires anyway, and then with whoever the new director would be.
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Well, I think we need to move on this tonight, because they're waiting to put a class together for the folks, who are gonna be EMRs, and, they want to get, I think there's like people that wanna take the course, and they have to complete it, so I think we should move ahead with this. It totally makes sense to change to this kind of, scheduling with a combination. But I just think we'll be able to offer the service in a more realistic fashion because we don't have enough EMTs volunteering, so.
Right, in a timely manner, yeah.
Yeah, in a timely manner.
So one step at a time. This is the one step for tonight. Any other questions or comments?
Jeff, do you have anything else that you want to state on it?
I could just fill you in a little bit. Right now, there is a class for EMRs tentatively for starting January 31st. We have talked to the fire department and 2 other individuals throughout the town who have expressed interest in it. So far, we have 7 people that have expressed interest. 1 person has already dropped out. Another person I haven't heard back from. The other 5 people, I don't know yet, because I have been knocking on the school's door for 2 weeks. And I realize with the holidays and everything that these folks want to know when they can sign up because they want to see if it's going to work with their scheduling right now. I finally got a notice today stating that somebody's supposed to have it out tomorrow. So I just wanted to bring it to the council's attention that this is perhaps a possibility coming down the road because we cannot continue to keep going the way we are. I am not going to lie to you. We are missing calls. We are in dire straits. We are missing calls. Ashland has to come in and backfill for us. It's not right. Washburn used to be up the pinnacle where we had 20, 25 people on our service. We no longer have that. The days of volunteerism are long gone. We had, I should say, 7 people that expressed interest in taking the EMT class that starts in about 2 weeks. I contacted each and every one of them by text, by phone calls, by emails, by texts, by phone calls, by emails. 0. Nobody. We've got 1 individual who expressed interest in doing it. He took the class down in Rylander. We are meeting with him Wednesday night, and hopefully he will be joining our service. That's only 1. We need more than that. We've had 1 person that had to walk away last month because he can't find housing. So he had to move away because there's no place for him to stay anymore. He went from paying $800 a month to $1,400 a month. He says, my job does not pay me that kind of money to live in this area. As you all know, with the Last month, we had 6 people in our service that met the criteria of either 432 hours of taking call or 72 shifts a year, however you want to divide it up. 6 people out of 18 people made that criteria. We have talked about so many things. We've talked about going to a scheduling program. We've talked about, please keep your pagers on. We've been kicking the can down the road for a long time, and it's just not working. And the fire department hears our pages go off and only one EMT is showing up. That is not right. Then we have to call for mutual aid with Ashland. And they're feeling bad because we got 5 people on the fire department that want to come and help us right now, but they're unable to. They have to take this class.
So then they can drive and assist if you have one EMT, which is not best case scenario, but it might fill the gap temporarily.
They will go through an 80-hour class. They will be trained in certain, they have to have CPR, they have to know how to run a defibrillator. I can't remember all the criteria. I believe you have it in your packet. And there's 80 hours in there that they have to go through. But primarily, they would be coming with us, helping us in the back to a certain point where we feel comfortable where myself or any of the other EMTs can take that person on by themselves in the back, and they would primarily drive. That would complete a crew for us. This is just a stepping stone. We wanted to let you folks know what's going on. We need to get a class going. We need to get enough people to take the class, and then we have to change our status with the state. We are not replacing the EMTs. We're just trying to accommodate the EMTs that are taking the call right now, instead of only one person showing up at 3 o'clock in the morning and having to call for somebody else to come over and bail us out.
Well, thank you for your work on this, Jeff, and getting the information for us. And hopefully, if this vote passes tonight, which I anticipate that it will, it's one step closer to filling a little bit of a gap.
And just a little side note here for Tom. Yeah, we're supposed to have 8 EMTs 24/7. You bring that up to the folks at the state, and they just kind of chuckle a little bit because they know that not everybody in the state is adhering to that rule, because they know how tough it is with rural EMS right now. It's just not Washburn, just not Washburn. It's everybody. So, any other questions? Be more than happy to. You can call me, email me, whatever. Do my best to answer your questions. So, like I said, some of the things I can't answer right now, some I can't. But that's where we stand. I'm hoping by the end of this week, I'm going to have a better handle on when this class is going to take place, and if the 5 that are interested are still going to be able to take the class, because if we don't get enough interest, there will not be a class.
And then you'll bring back some recommendations for pay scale at some point.
Scott and I have spoken about that, and
I just find it really fascinating how the difference of the pay scales are between Marengo, like $200 for EMT run and $100 for, I find some of that stuff kind of interesting for the wide range of pay scales.
I'm not really sure what's happening in Marengo right now. The last I heard that they're either going to a first responder, they're either going to a first responder status, or Ashland is taking them back.
Trying to incentivize.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on there, but there's some other entities that are paying differential at night, which is a problem for us right now. Our big problem right now is from 6 at night until 6 in the morning and weekends. Yeah. During the day, we're fine. We've posted, Tony, we're going on 3 months now for our full-time, our 3rd full-time EMT. It's not happening.
The night differential is kind of interesting. That might be an incentive to think about, But yeah. Anyway,
possible.
So
yep.
Thank you for everything you guys do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other comments, questions? If not, we have a motion by Mary, a second by Tom to switch to include an EMR service with the ambulance service. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I think the motion carried. I didn't hear everybody say aye, but I'm guessing they did.
Yeah, everybody did.
Give me a thumbs up if you said aye. All right. moving on to our next item, discussion and action on resolution number 24-0034 for preliminary special assessments for Bayfield Street Water and Sewer, tab 7 of your packet. Scott, do you want to say anything about this one?
I don't have anything to add other than what I had already included in the packet. So this would just be for 2 properties on this phase.
And it looked like it was a fairly reasonable amount. And this is the time to do it. What was it, 10,176 for one of them and 12,156 for the other?
Correct, that is based on a linear foot calculation.
Does anyone care to make a motion on this?
I do, so moved.
Second.
Motion by Mary, was that a second by Tom?
Yes.
Any questions on this? Comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item. Discussion and action on resolution 24-004, repealing the exemption of downtown area from the scenic byway program. So, I think we've talked about this briefly last time, and we had initially requested an exemption for our downtown area from the scenic byway program. However, when we realized it was complicating things at the federal level, now that we're a national scenic byway, and we were able to address some of the signage concerns within an existing ordinance change, the DOT wants us to formally withdraw our request for the exemption so that they're clear in their direction. And so that's what this resolution is. Does anyone care to make a motion on this?
I'll move. Second.
Was that Jared?
Yep.
Motion by Jared, second by Tom.
Yep.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, discussion and action on revisions to social media policy, tab 9 of your packet. It looks like this has been thoroughly reviewed and hashed out. Does anyone care to make a motion on this one?
So moved.
I'll second it. Motion by Mary, second by Tracy. Questions?
I just have a comment on, under, there's a typo, under general guidelines A, electronic media, under 1, first line, it says severs instead of servers. You see it?
Yep.
I had another couple of.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And shouldn't it just be singular network servers? Network servers? Yeah, probably.
Networks, comma.
Okay.
I have a couple typos.
Very good.
All right, so with that,
Yeah.
With that correction,
I have one more comment.
yeah, go ahead, Tracy.
Okay, when I went through this, on page 46, on number 9, I just have a question. It says, it reads, "You must not disclose the city's confidential information through the use of social media. Confidential information does not include discussions with blah, blah, blah." But it doesn't say what it includes. I'm just curious if it needs to say confidential information includes blah, blah, blah. It's just funny that it just says it does not include this, but it doesn't define what it includes.
I think it has to say what it does not include there for that specific item because of another law.
Okay, I figured that there was a reason why, but it just sounded kind of funny to me.
Does any, Yeah, Max, do you have any opinion on the definition of confidential information?
So I can, this is Scott, and I can explain, we don't have a lot, but there are some areas where that would occur. For example, when we're dealing with the ambulance, any sort of medical information regarding any patient care, any of that sort of stuff that the ambulance deals with, that's all protected information. Some personnel matters can be, in some circumstances, of course, anything related to social security numbers and any other protected information, and from that perspective is confidential. Utility information is now confidential, so we can't be discussing people's utility accounts and things like that. So there are a few categories out there, and that is always subject to change with law changes and so forth. And people working in those areas are expected to be familiar with those rules. So,
and I'll just add to that the confidential information is, for the most part, defined by state statutes in a broad area. A broad area that oftentimes includes information on certain wages and conditions of employment. But this specifically says that the city can't prohibit you from talking about your own wages and conditions of employment.
Okay.
That's why that exemption is in there.
Okay, anyone else?
The only thing I have is, I'm assuming, I didn't see it in here, but like disciplinary action, like in other sections, it talks about if you don't comply, there's disciplinary action. Is that just intended here? I know it's a little weird.
That's the discipline section is a whole other
Whole other thing.
sub area.
Okay. It's just like when you look at, yeah, it's fine.
So this is just a policy?
Just a policy.
Okay. Anyone else? Seeing no other questions or comments, and we have a motion by Mary, second by Tracy, to approve the revisions to the social media policy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, discussion and action on resolution 23-001, combining wards into a single polling place for 2024 elections.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry, who was the second on that?
Dave was first.
Dave?
Yep.
Okay. Motion by Mary, second by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Woo! Bye.
Stop. You need this or what? I need this.
That's yours.
Not a problem.
There should be no expectation of privacy.
Yeah.